Hi, this is Zeke, and I was recently told by some friends that I should make an ASMR channel. So I thought that today, because they're Swedish, that I would read the top 6 ways the US and Sweden differ. Now, this isn't actually by me, it's by The Local. It's a website. I'll leave a link in the description to it. But, I thought I'd just read the differences between US and Sweden. So, let's get right into that. Okay. Back home in the US with a solid Swedish stint under his belt, contributor Stephen Shear has listed what he thinks are the 6 biggest differences between Sweden and the States. I recently lived 5 months in Sweden, teaching at Uppsala University. Sorry if I just butchered that. Traveling frequently to Stockholm, visiting the far north in Abisko and exploring the medieval ruins of Visby. I'm sorry if I butcher all of these names. Upon returning to my home in Northfield, Minnesota, a small ex-urban college town near Minneapolis, St. Paul, several contrasts between the America and Sweden struck me. The US and Sweden are 2 different worlds in several respects. Consider the following. Okay, the first paragraph is called Living Large. In Sweden, I lived in a small university-provided house considered a spacious accommodation. Our U.S. house, however, is approximately twice the size of my Swedish residence. Americans on average drive much larger cars than Swedes. Most of my American neighbors have 3-car garages, and across the street resides a family with 4 automobile vehicles. Americans really do live large by Swedish standards. Why the difference? America's lower taxes allow individual Americans more discretionary income for home mortgages, or for securing loans for multiple vehicles. Swedes, in contrast, contribute more in taxes for a greater array of governmental services, like extensive publicly provided health care, family, and elder care services, in return for less discretionary income. Getting around. The next paragraph is called Getting Around. Much of my time in Sweden was spent surrounded by many bicyclists or inscorns on trains and buses. All of that vanished upon returning to my home in America. My U.S. environment features transport in large automobiles with mass transit and infrequently available option, and bicycling a far less widespread activity. In Sweden, ownership of 2 cars marks a household as economically elite. Not so in the U.S. Still very much a car culture. Our 2-car garage in Minnesota is the smallest on our street. American governments do less to discourage auto ridership. One reason is the widespread popularity of auto ownership in the U.S., which makes efforts to curb auto use dangerous for any elected official. Another reason is the abundance of gasoline available at about half that price the Swedes pay. I found Sweden's mass transit to operate pretty well, except for a 2-week disruption of rail service between Uppsala and Stockholm in June that left me pining for an automobile. Okay, the next paragraph is called Night and Day. I arrived in Sweden in January, when daytime involved about 5 hours of dusk. I left in June, when nighttime consisted of 3½ hours of dusk. The long days and long nights resulting from Sweden's very northerly latitude are challenging for a visitor from one of America's lower 40 states. It is a Swedish trait to which I doubt that I could ever fully adjust. When should I go to sleep and when should I wake up? The answer to that question varied greatly with the season in Sweden. The only effective response to such seasonal variation, it seems to me, are very dark curtains and very bright sun lamps. Okay, the next paragraph is just called Food. In Minnesota, one pays no sales tax on food, clothing, or prescriptions. The large sales tax in Sweden produced a change in my diet. I ate far less meat and reduced my portion sizes at meals. I also dined out less because the average price of meal out was 50 to 100% higher than in the U.S. Substituting my unspectacular cooking for the fine food prepared by my wife, who spent most of the 5 months back in the U.S., also led to more meager repast. I lost weight and was probably healthier as a result, but I did miss a few culinary indulgences. I ate only 1 steak during my 5 months in Sweden as student nation at Uppsala University at a price well below what restaurants charge. Upon returning to the US, I was immediately struck by the larger number of overweight people. Swedes on average are much trimmer than Americans. Higher food prices may be part of the reason, but Swedes on average seem to have more physically active lifestyles than Americans do. They walk and bicycle more, and caloric fast food seems to compromise a smaller portion of Sweden diets. Those reasons, combined with the more comprehensive medical care for all citizens, helps to explain why Swedish lifespans are on average longer than all of those in the US. Okay, the next paragraph is called extroversion. Sorry if you can hear that car, by the way. Upon returning to the US, I was surprised to find that people in stores and on the street began talking to me. The buttoned-up quality of Swedes yielded very few such casual conversations during my 5 months in their country. American extroversion may be more evident in the center of the U.S. than in the urban centers of America's coast. I found casual and friendly conversations a pleasant experience again in the U.S. It helped me reconnect with the American culture very quickly. Okay, the next article is called New York. Swedes are highly focused on New York City. I saw more New York Yankees caps in Sweden than I've ever in the U.S. outside of New York City. Living in Sweden, one gets a sense that New York City compromises the totality of Swedish interests in the U.S. Americans who do not live on America's East Coast pay far less attention to New York City than do Swedes. For many Americans, the city represents several less desirable American traits. That is a perception we're nowhere evident in Sweden, and for the record, I, along with millions of Americans, despise the New York Yankees. In recent weeks, I've experienced two very different cultures indeed. Americans could learn from Swedish innovations in mass transit and healthcare. Swedes could use more discreditory income and social extroversion. I miss Sweden, but realized, having spent several decades in the U.S. prior to my Swedish sojourn, that the U.S. is indeed my cultural home. My time in Sweden revealed to me how American I am, and I thank Sweden and Swedes for that useful self-knowledge. And that's actually the end of this article. I hope you enjoyed. I know it was a fairly short, but I hope that you look at my next video, which is more than likely going to be about the multiverse theory, which I am very excited about. So please hit that like button down below and subscribe if you enjoyed. Also, that little notification, little bell button, is to show that if you want to see some of my videos in the future. And I'll be doing face cams sometime in the future as well. But currently, because of my curtains, my entire room is highlighted orange. And I thought it would just look weird. But like I said, thank you for watching. And please subscribe and check out my next few videos I'll be making.